I'm your host today, and I will be sharing my sobriety story, briefly or not so briefly. It's kind of a thing that I realized I hadn't done, and I don't know how comprehensively I've ever told the story, so I don't know how else to do it but this way and get through it. Um, I will eventually be posting the link to come into the meeting room. But in the meantime, I thought I'd just start off by reading from the Smart Recovery Handbook. Vital Absorbing Creative Interest, or VACI. I had made a copy of the VACI list before, but I was kind of in the middle of that paragraph yesterday. And it says, first look at the benefits of your cost-benefit analysis, what were some of the benefits you were getting from your addictive behavior before the costs became too high? Did you enjoy the buzz? Did you like being able to just check out for a bit? Was it the taste or the social aspect? Believe it or not, each of these benefits is a key to finding your VACI. If you enjoyed the buzz, then look at the things you could do to get a real buzz out of life. The reward will be greater, and you will remember it in the morning for years to come. Maybe you decide to ride a roller coaster you have never ridden before. Maybe it's taking up running or race walking. Perhaps you've always wanted to skydive, ride a motorcycle. Figure out what would give you a buzz and take it on. If using or acting out allowed you to check out for a bit, maybe look at some ways of being away from the world for a while. It might give you a chance to restore your energy. Take a walk by yourself. Go to the ocean and watch the waves. I used to love going to the ocean when I was in California. Go on a day trip and be alone with yourself in your car. A bike ride is a great way to be alone with nature. What about gardening, crafts, and artistic endeavors? Be careful to do your VACI in moderation so that you don't replace one addictive behavior with another. Hi, that's kind of what I do. So don't follow my example. If you leaned on alcohol or drugs to help you feel comfortable in social situations, you might challenge yourself to go to a social event and act as fun and as friendly as you were when you were using, which, by the way, I was a fun drunk, I gotta say. I became bombastic, like me times 10. What did you like to do as a kid? What hobbies did you have? What dreams were never realized? Now is the time to take your life back and make some of those things happen. Variety is the spice of life. Find many VACIs to keep you looking for more. Life is full of amazing and new things to learn and do. And it goes into the VACI list next. And so I will post that tomorrow as my little put this up on the screen thing. Hi, Charlie. Hi, everybody, by the way. Thank you for being here. And I have an outline here that I've written out that so that I don't forget something, which I probably will anyway. But, I know that little by little kind of my story is leaked out. But as I said in the beginning, I've never really comprehensively gone into, from point A to point B, where I had someone telling me that I had to go to rehab. Telling me to go to rehab. And I went, go, go, go. Yeah. And I did. My sobriety story. My mom let me taste some alcohol a time or two, like when we would have wine with a special meal with a special guest. I think my earliest memory of that was somewhere around the age of 13, 14, 12 at the very earliest. She wanted me to learn to drink responsibly. Later on, when I became so sober, the key words in there became mom taught me to drink, wanted to teach me to drink responsibility, teach me to drink became the key words. She was not an active alcoholic per se when I was growing up, or if she was, she it wasn't something that she was doing every day. She would wait until the weekends when she and my dad could go up to, what they called Booger Mountain up in Oklahoma. We had some friends that lived on this whole mountain, and they had built this wonderful sprawling ranch house around this little one-room, old school cabin, and it was a really neat place. I mean, a bit, it was like Elvis level cool, you know, um, themed rooms. Like there was a leopard print room or a tiger print room, and just it was very cool. It ended up being lost to a fire after I was grown, and that was actually my first exposure to being around people who drank as well. Because my parents didn't drink in the home. My dad had quit drinking before I was born. Um, and so I got to grow up. Mom got to be married to, and Daly got to grow up with the fun guy. And I got to grow up with the dry drunk because he just quit drinking. He didn't go into any kind of recovery or anything like that. He was just that real self-righteous. Well, I quit cold turkey and that, and I just walked away. Did you now? Yeah, he really did, but he was really not great fun to be around. And if any of you know what being a dry drunk is, imagine an Air Force Master Sergeant on a dry drunk. And you find out what I grew up with. It's great. My dad had his good points, but overall the Master Sergeant was the villain of the day, and he came out a lot. He's who stood out the most, I would say. So yeah, the first time I raided my parents' liquor cabinet, I was 15. It was 4th of July, and everybody was gone, and I was pissed that I was there by myself, not getting to be anywhere to celebrate, see fireworks, nothing. And so, as an act of revenge, I raided my parents' liquor cabinet. It was just all these little bottles with just little bits in the bottom of it. There was no full bottles, but I drank every last one of them suckers and passed out in my little hide-a-bed chair. I always had the mattress out. It was like a hide-a-bed couch, but it was a chair. So it was a little narrow twin bed, and I was a narrow framed human being. So I slept on that, and I woke up at something like 2 or 3 in the morning, over the side of my chair, and it was upholstery. And so yeah, when I woke up in the morning, that's what I woke up to, is the contents of my first drunk on the side of the chair, on the arm of the chair that I was sleeping in. And I'm sure, I feel like Dad had to have heard me when I woke up at 2, 3 in the morning. I'm sure it was. And if he didn't, I don't know how. If he couldn't walk by, because my room was right there by the bathroom door. So he had to have smelled it. I don't know if he really just didn't know, or if he knew but chose not to know, or if he knew and just decided that, what had happened on the arm of my chair was punishment enough, and he just let me have it without saying a word. I don't get to ask him because he's not around. But so, I didn't drink a lot in high school. My friends actually started drinking after I graduated. I had graduated in 83, and my friends were all class of 84. They wanted to hold me back in the first grade. My mom wouldn't let them. She didn't want that stigma on me. But my friends all ended up being class of 84, and we're still all friends to this day. And so their senior year in high school is when they started kind of getting into the drinking. And of course, by then, I'm in beauty school, that's what we called it back then. It was cosmetology school, and it was called that back then too. But most we knew it as beauty school. This was the 80s, after all, and then when I started, my first salon job was in a pretty hoity-toity place, like the muckety mucks, the who's who of Fayetteville or the area. That's where they came, and so I thought I was all that and some bags of chips, and it's all part of being 18, 19. But in beauty school, I started dating a man 10 years older than myself. He ended up being my ex-husband, and he had salt and pepper hair. So I could pretty much go anywhere with him and drink. In those days, the laws were a lot more laxed. They started kind of clamping down on underage drinking right about that time, but I could kind of slide under the radar, even though I looked as young as I was. Because there I was with a man with a full-on porn mustache and salt and pepper gray hair. And the only time that I ever tried to drink by myself during that time period, I pulled up to Dixon Street liquor window and ordered like the most expensive bottle of scotch, the biggest version of it. And, it was another one of those situations where I was pissed off because my ex-husband had been off flying around in his airplane. He was taking flying lessons at the time, and it was Saturday night, and I was pissed. I wanted to go do something, and I didn't want to do it by myself, and I didn't know anybody but him. And he was a covert narcissist, so that was kind of by design. Whether consciously or subconsciously, there it was. Anyway, so in revenge, I went to Dick Lick, we called it, Dixon Street Liquor, and told the guy what I wanted, and he looked at me like he wanted to card me, and I looked like him. Card me, I dare ya. And he went and got my scotch. And I very few times did I have the sickness as a result of drinking, but that time I did. And he had come home to find me in that state and nursed me through it so that I didn't die choking in the contents of, my revenge drinking. So, yeah, then I married my ex in 1987. And by 1989, I was over it. And I didn't care what he was going to do to try to reel me back in, like I had experienced all those times that I'd tried to break up with him when we were just dating before. He had pretty much killed off any guilt buttons he could have pushed by that time. I was done, and I didn't care what I had to do to be out of it. And I didn't care what I did to him in the process, because I knew he was going to try something. And when you're at that point, you can leave. At least that's how it was for me. So that was December of 1989, and we had planned a trip to Florida in the car. And of course, we're living in Northwest Arkansas. So that's several hours of driving. So I decided that I was gonna take that trip with him. I was gonna enjoy the beach, and on the way back, when he didn't have anywhere else to be, nowhere else to run, I was gonna tell him. And that's what I did. And so kind of how the conversation came about was I wanted some bottled water because I didn't drink tap water. My pearls, tap water, and he was kind of making, he was kind of putting me down for having to be too good for tap water, and I said, well, maybe you need to find somebody who doesn't mind drinking tap water. And he's like, what are you saying? I said, I'm saying I want a divorce. And you know what? I never had to say another word. He sat there and went line item by line item by line item all the reasons that I had for wanting to divorce him. And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Pardon my language. You knew you knew what you were doing the whole damn time, you know? So, that kinda helped fuel my, "I don't give a rip what I have to do to get out of this, and I don't give a rip what I do to your ass," you know? And, so by the time I got out of there, I had the whole divorce awaiting in front of me, and I knew it was gonna be a long, ugly battle. Took a whole year to get that sucker finalized, and, but I was in it for the long haul, I didn't care, and I thought, "Okay, these are the ways that I can go about it. I can go to marriage counseling with this guy to try to work out a way to do this amicably. I could go to counseling myself, or I could drink my way through this son of a bitch." And guess what? I chose the drinking way. And so no, that was December of '88. I was married in September of '87. By December of '88 is when I told him that I was leaving. So I spent the whole year of '89 trying to get this thing wrapped up. I ended up having to walk away from the house that we'd bought together and everything in it. And the divorce settlement ended up with him getting the house and everything in it. And I took half the credit card, the unsecured credit card debt, which included a card to the hardware store where we had, you know, we had bought stuff to remodel that house that I was not going to get to live in. But yeah, I took it anyway. That's how badly I wanted out. And so, you know, we never made it to judge's chambers. And that, of course, was by design. It was just me in judge's chambers getting browbeaten by my lawyer, by him, by my lawyer, by him, until I was just like, "Give me the damn thing, I'll sign it." And I did, and I walked away, and that was that. He had made a verbal promise that if I would just sign the divorce agreement that he wanted, which was him getting the house and everything in it and me taking half the credit card debt, um, he would help me out with buying a car or anything that I needed like that. And of course, I knew he wouldn't, and he didn't. When I called him to see if he was going to make good on that promise, of course, he didn't. Well, don't you have a little boyfriend by now that can help you with that? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I see how this is. It's going exactly like I thought it was. Click, you know. And so what I did was I worked as a hairdresser during the daytime and a full 8-hour shift, and then I went straight to River City, a local club, big, humongous place, and I was a cocktail waitress from sundown till about 2 or 3 in the morning. Of course, then I'd have my comps, and then I'd go home and I'd wake up and I'd come back around the next day. Later on, as I was thinking about it, my clientele began to dwindle as this, as the, I mean, I was drinking heavy from '89 to, until the divorce was February '90 was when the divorce was finalized. And, so yeah, I, I was also in a band. Um, I started, singing with a band that, the guitar player ended up being the father of my one and only child, who is now in his 30s. And, we were it was kind of starting to be clear that we were attracted to each other, but I wouldn't let myself go there until the divorce was finalized. And then, of course, the divorce happened, and it was on. We were a thing. And so I was singing in the band, I was doing all that, and but I got out of the debt, and he was kind of a heavy drinker, and so but when he would drink, it would be like all absorbing, like it was like a competition, like I was having to compete with the other woman almost, like having to, so to drink along to get along and try to hope to have a shot at getting any of the attention that alcohol was getting, you know. And when we dated from February of 90, of course, until the Gulf War, the first Gulf War started in I think it was 91, wasn't it? Yeah, because we dated a little less than a year for about 10 months. And at the beginning of 91, I uh, I I was still madly in love with him. Um, but he had done something that just so wounded me. He had said something that just so wounded me that I couldn't recover from it. I was When we were dating, I was like, I want his baby. I never told him. I never told anybody, but I did. I mean, it's just I want his baby. And it didn't happen while we were dating because I was on birth control. But he, the thing that happened was, I decided to kind of see what his reaction would be if I were to say, "Hey, by the way, I'm pregnant." So I kind of complained of the stomach cramps that I was having, which were real. I just kind of used it as my opportunity, and I said, huh, "Maybe I'm pregnant," and there was just dead silence, followed by a shudder, followed by, "Well, what would you do if I was pregnant?" And I'm just looking at him like, "We're dating. We've been dating for almost a year. Are we or are we not committed here?" These are the things that are going through my mind, and I'm like, "What do you mean, what would I do?" Well, you know, I wouldn't marry you. And what's going through my mind was, "Well, so what are you doing sleeping with me then?" I didn't say it, and I kicked myself for years that I never said that out loud to him, because it was a valid question, you know? And, whew, sidetrack, sidetrack. That all gets heavy. But, yeah, let's just say he got run out of my apartment, kinda fearing for his safety a little bit. Yeah, throwing shit at him level, upset, angry, crying, hurt. Oh my god, so hurt, you know? And, whew. So, yeah, the Gulf War is looming, and life is seeming like it's gonna get shorter all of a sudden. None of us knew what was gonna be happening. None of us knew what was happening. I'm 25, and, figure I don't have time to waste on this fool, you know? But what your head says and what your heart says, they don't always come into alignment, especially when you're young like that. And it's the first time you've ever felt that way for somebody, you know? And yeah. So I decide during that period where I'm broken off with him that my I've been on birth control for 5 years, and my bodily processes have been put on their natural thing long enough, and I just wanted to see what my own body felt like again, what my own natural processes felt like again, and because I was just basically I was done with all that. You know how that goes. But, thankfully, the 2 guys that I ended up No, 3 guys that I ended up dating during that interim after breaking up with him. All 3 of them were older men, which I seemed to be attracted to off and on. They'd all had vasectomies, so that was pretty great, pretty convenient. And then 4th of July rolls around, and that was his birthday. And the guy that I had been seeing shows up to my apartment, which has a very narrow staircase, and I hear bam, 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 bam on the steps, and I go to my door to the top of my staircase to see what's going on, and that guy's like there with a crew of young guys that I knew, of course, with his stuff, sitting there holding his stuff, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's going, "I'm moving in." I'm like, no, you're not. You can march, you and you guys, with all that shit and take it right back where you brought it from. No. Mm-mm. So that happened, and so then I'm left alone in my apartment, and nostalgia starts creeping in of, how safe things were and how familiar things were with the baby daddy, and who was not a baby daddy at that time. And, you know, and in my fit of nostalgia, I called him up. And we ended up going for drinks at Roger's Rec, and then hitting his place. And I told him that I was off birth control. And again, one of those missed opportunities to ask what he meant by whatever he was saying, which was, "Oh, it's okay." Well, what does it's okay mean? You know? And that night, I'm like, I just got pregnant. And sure enough, I had just gotten pregnant. And by the time I had gone ahead and decided to do the little stick to confirm what I already knew, I was drinking the little is the little bottle about yay big, about a fifth of tequila a day, alone in my apartment every day. I Most of the time I wouldn't drink the whole thing. That's kind of how I kind of tricked myself into thinking I wasn't an alcoholic, because I was a lightweight drunk. It didn't take much to get me drunk. And so yeah. And it was just kind of my way of like, well, I'm just gonna terminate anyway, and I would try to make the appointment from calling from work, because I had a boss, she was the owner of the salon where I was working, and she was so ugly, saying, "Are you better hurry up and call and get that abortion, because it's basically I just had to do it because she said so." And of course that kind of got my defiant cackles up. But I would go to try to make the phone call, and I would kind of get a movie played of what was about to take place. And I would end up like either not picking up the phone or having the phone in my hand and putting it back down. And then finally the day came that I realized I wasn't going to be able to do that. And of course, this is early trimester, and I'm drinking. I'm drinking. I'm not just drinking, but I'm drinking alone in my apartment. I was always a social butterfly drinker. That was my elixir for being social, because I was always so socially awkward, and I thought I'd found God, because I'd found a way to not be socially awkward, or if I was, I didn't care. Same effect. That's what I say when I was kind of a fun drunk. And so by the time it came to peeing on a stick, it's supposed to turn pink if you're pregnant. That thing was magenta, deep magenta, as if to say, "Girlfriend, let there be no doubt. What you thought that night to be true is so true." but I was already watching my little belly grow, and anyway, yeah, seventh son, exactly. It's okay, meaning you'll take care of it. So by the time it comes around to the thing of not being able to do what I was going to do, it was kind of one of those reckoning moments of what my life had become. It wasn't a pretty picture. I was not doing well, and I didn't have a choice but to confront it. There was nowhere to run. I mean, I'm saddled with this thing, and it's not going away. You know, it's a very sobering awakening moment. And I end up walking. In those days, Fayetteville was just a sleepy little college town. And you could walk the streets on a summer night and there'd be nobody around. The streets were quiet except for the nightclubs that you could hear off in the distance. But I knew the streets to walk, and it was safe to do that. And I walked all over town on those quiet streets, just trying to sort out, my life is effed up, and I don't know how to make it not effed up. This is not a good place for a child to come into. It's not this child's fault. This is a baby. This is an innocent being who did nothing to deserve what it's going to get born into, And of course, as most of you know, I'd grown up with a narcissistic abuser, my brother, 11 years older than me, a high schooler beating up a little elementary school skinny kid. And I was afraid that I was like that. All these questions like, well, what if I'm like that? I can't continue to perpetuate this, and plus, I mean, by this time the pregnancy hormones are just raging through me, and I'm scared. And the party had ended. I'd stopped drinking. I was actually already drinking alone in my apartment. I wasn't partying anymore. And when life gets real, your partying friends are just scattering like cockroaches in the light, and so there was nobody 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 around to help me process this and sort this out, and to give me any reassurance of any kind that I could be a parent to this child, you know? So I kind of decided right then and there that I was going to choose adoption, and I did. And I started kind of early on meeting couples, and boy, a lot of them were freaking me out because they were so needy and just so, you know, we're going to adopt your baby. They were that desperate. I'm like, no, get out of here, you freakazoid, And a girl that I kind of knew from around the scene, everybody kind of knows everybody in this small little college town. And she had just, it was one of those nights when I'm walking around and my pregnancy's starting to show. And she's like, she kind of called out to me from across the parking lot from the grill where she was working. And she was saying, basically, looks like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders. And I told her what was going on and that I was thinking about adoption. And she's like, interesting, because my sister and brother-in-law had just decided to adopt. They've been through IVF treatments for like 4 years and nothing's happened. And I just felt like that was a sign from God, if you will, a sign from the universe. And So, I stayed sober from that night that I'd been walking around town that ultimately ended up with me deciding that adoption was the way to go. Because in addition to that, when when the baby daddy said that he wouldn't marry me, the only thing he offered was he said he'd pay for an abortion. And it's like, well, gee, golly gee, that's big of you, you know. And and my dad had always been drilled it into me. If you get pregnant, that's out of wedlock and that's an unwanted child. Therefore, the only logical conclusion is abortion, you know. And I guess I'm gonna have to put a trigger warning on this for the replay crew. I apologize. Um, yeah, I didn't know that I was going to get into all this aspect of it. I really did not. It's not in my outline, guys. But bottom line is I stayed sober from that night on. And then the day that my baby was born, I had him in my apartment with a midwife because I didn't want the hospital being able to just wheel him in and out of my room at their own whim. I wanted that whatever time that I had with my baby, I wanted every bit of it. I didn't want anybody robbing me of a second of it. And thank you, Megan. Thank you. And when I looked at that miracle of a baby, that little baby Buddha that just landed in my midwife's arms, the first thing I thought was, he's okay. You try not to dwell on it when you're pregnant, but you know what you did your first trimester. You try not to dwell on any damage you might have done to them neurologically or anything like that. And but it's there. It's not going anywhere any more than the baby's going anywhere. And that's the first thing I thought was, he's okay. He was alert. He was doing everything he was supposed to do. He came out crying. He had 10 fingers, 10 toes, a little Buddha belly. His eyes were just these little slits, that were open, and he was perfect. He's the most beautiful newborn I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not just saying that because I'm his mom. No, he really was. You moms know what I'm talking about. And that night, he was born at like 11 in the morning. And, that night I was just kind of in awe of, this body that had not only grown this beautiful, perfect being, but had brought this being into the world. I mean, why would anybody pollute such a thing with alcohol? And I'd kind of decided right then and there that I wasn't going to drink anymore. Why would I do that? I mean, this body is a miracle. Look what it just did. And I'm going to poison it. But that didn't last very long. I kept my baby with me for 5 days. And then I put him in the adoptive parents' arms and said my goodbyes. And not long after that, had a complete and total breakdown. I don't know if it was emotional, psychological. It was all of it. And it was a very, very frightening time. And when I came out of the intensity of it, I was just kind of this numb shell of a human being. I mean, who does that? Who gives birth to their child and just puts them in the arms of people they barely even know? Who does that? A crazy person, and that's who. you know, and I had the breakdown to prove it that I was that crazy person. Who does that? Why did I put on makeup? I had no idea I was going there, guys. So, by the time I come out of the intense part of the breakdown, the scary part, I was this numb shell of a human being, completely unrecognizable to myself. And I just kind of found myself thinking, I'm miserable. Why am I not drinking? I couldn't find a good reason. What was the point? You know? What was the freaking point? So yeah, Luke was born in 92, and by 94, I'm still that shell of a human being. But, I've had 2 years of solid heavy drinking to the point that, my daily routine was have a big old cup of coffee with lots of cream in it, eat a whole box of Keebler, those Keebler square minty rectangle-y thingies that are chocolate covered, eat a whole box of those, and then spend the rest of the day drinking whatever I can afford to drink. And seventh son, I'm gonna have to agree to disagree with you on the best decision. And I found out from my son some things that he went through. Not to say that he wouldn't have gone through things with me, he would have, because I'm not a quality human being at this point. But he would have been with family, and people who loved him like family, not like somebody's possession. And I'm just going to leave it at that, because that story is not mine to tell. But let's just say that when I learned what he went through, I had to go through a whole nother, who does that? Gives their child to perfect strangers. You know, he wasn't physically abused, nothing like that. But yeah, again, not my story to tell. Um, so by February, things seem to come up in Februarys, don't they? My wedding anniversary is February. My sobriety birthday is February. By 1994, I'm in San Diego, California, trying to make a new start with a friend who had just moved here to go through recovery, and she was staying with her mom, which I didn't understand at the time that was what the deal was too, because she kind of made it sound like she was working with her mom, but I didn't really understand that they were living together. And she wanted somebody out there with her that she knew, and so I manipulated my mom into getting me getting me a round trip ticket to San Diego, and it was an open-ended, you know, ticket that was good for a year. I had a year to fly back on it, and I ended up not flying back. I was in San Diego from 94 until 2009. And so by the time the mom figured out that I wasn't just there to visit, and she had had 4 years in recovery in AA, and her daughter was trying to get sober, um, she dropped me off in front of this Catholic Charities homeless shelter called St. Vincent de Paul. And I went in not knowing what to do or say or anything like that, but they had somebody sit down with me and do kind of an intake application interview thing, and um, she ended up stopping the interview and went away, leaving me sitting at the desk for a little while. And she comes back with a trolley ticket, and she says, "Consider this your overnight pass. And here's what you're to do with this trolley ticket. This is the stop that you'll get off on. This is the number of the house that you're going to go to. And this is a church organization that has a caseworker. You're to see this person who's going to be your caseworker if she recommends you to a 30 night stay. But you're to talk to her. And if she recommends you, you can stay for another 30 days. And so I did exactly what the girl said. And I talked to the caseworker. And after the caseworker interviewed me, she said, "Okay, I am going to recommend you for the 30-night stay. And here's what's going to happen in order for that to come, in order for that for you to have that, stay in that position, of having that place to stay, that roof over your head, essentially. I'm not going to make you do 90 meetings in 90 days of either AA or NA, but I am going to make you do 3 meetings a week. And I'm going to recommend you go to as many extra meetings as you can." And I'm like, okay, sure. I mean, I don't have a problem with that because I don't have a problem. Uh, and so I was full on in AA. I was actually going to meetings every day. Some of them they had meetings every day in the shelter, and I'd go to those. And sometimes I'd walk to a meeting downtown because you could walk everywhere downtown from St. Vinny's, we'd all call it. And they had a sober coffee house downtown that I used to like to go to. And we should have more of those. We really should. And so, kind of how it would go was there would be an assessment every 30 days by this same caseworker. When I became well enough to become employable, she helped me get an official copy of my birth certificate, a social security card so I could get employment. I mean, she did a lot for me. She was amazing. And people would drop off donations, and I got a lot of my clothes there, work worthy clothes for, nice clothes for interviewing. And I'd get vouchers from the St. Vincent thrift store. And, like, I still have 1 or 2 items from that time that I got as thrift store finds that were all such godsends. I was walking everywhere to go to meetings and to go to this and to go to that, I was diving pretty headlong into sobriety because in the first 3 weeks, as the fog it's there, but maybe it's starting to dissipate just ever so slightly. I'm hearing a story, somebody's sobriety story, and I'm hearing something that sounds pretty familiar, and it's pretty shocking, you know? And I just thought, "Oh, okay, so maybe I'm not just here to help all my alcoholic friends that I know are alcoholics, but I'm not, you know. I'll take some notes and go help my friends that are all alcoholics. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'll do." Anyway, but yeah, I was doing meetings every day, for most days. Maybe there'd be a day here and there that I wouldn't make it, but I was doing something towards sobriety every day, really and truly. Because when that fog started to dissipate and I heard I started hearing stories that sounded eerily familiar, um, I started feeling what I had done to my body, doing nothing but drinking coffee, eating Keebler cookies, and then spending the rest of the day drinking. I mean, I could pace myself really well. I mean, I could make a bottle last for a good long while because I didn't have a lot of money. So I had to, and I didn't need to just down a whole bunch at once to derive whatever benefits I thought I was deriving from it. In the meantime, now that I'm sober, I'm starting to feel the damage that I had done to my poor little brain and my poor body, and as time's going on, I'm beginning to wonder if I'm ever going to be the same as I was before I started drinking. If I'm ever going to recover. I really and truly did not know for the first year what my body was supposed to be, what I was going to have, you know, once sobriety was going to be the path I was going to be walking. And golly, I forgot where I was going with that. Other than, I did have to get serious about sobriety because I recognized how close to death's door I was when I was abruptly halted by being plucked up and plucked into this Catholic Charities homeless shelter and placed before somebody who told me, "You can't have a roof over your head unless you go to rehab." And they had an intensive rehab program in-house that I also did. And in addition to going to meetings, and it was a decent rehab program. They do the whole thing, the cost benefit analysis thing of, you know, your the benefits that you derive from it, but what was the cost? What did it actually cost you? What did you lose? Well, my God, what didn't I lose? You know, that didn't take a genius to figure out. What didn't I lose? How do you lose anything more precious than your flesh and blood firstborn child? You know, and damn near lose my life. You know, so along about 7 months in, somewhere in there, I'm running around the halls of this Catholic charity, and there's pictures of Jesus everywhere, you know, and you know that first night that before I saw my caseworker, that when I got that trolley pass to sleep in that bed that night, um, I was just laying up on that top bunk looking up at that ceiling going, "Am I dreaming that I'm here in this nice warm room, in this safe environment, not having to smell that urine that you can smell in the streets as soon as you walk out the door of this place? Am I dreaming this from the streets? Am I really here? Am I really not on those streets?" I mean, I was just literally dropped off in downtown fucking San Diego, you know? And, anyway, Anik, I'm gonna do my best to have meetings. I'm trying to figure out how I can cook my meal because normally my meal I'm usually getting finished with my Thanksgiving cooking my Thanksgiving meal 3:40, 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock. That's my usual time frame for having dinner on the table. You know, the latest it's ever been has been like 5. So that is totally meeting time. So I'm trying to figure out how I can not be me and function on that time frame and still do a meeting. I might end up having to do like a pre-recorded thing or doing a reaction video to somebody else's sobriety story or something like that, so that I can have Thanksgiving with my family. My son has said that he wants to come for Thanksgiving. I never assume that he wants to spend Thanksgiving or any holiday with us. I always ask. Um, and this year I told him that, if you run across, if any of your friends don't have anywhere to go for the holiday, feel free to invite them. We'll have plenty, you know. And so I don't know who we'll have here besides him, but for sure it's going to be me and my husband and my son, because he called me the other day to RSVP. He'll be there, and right now he doesn't have anybody that he's run across to invite. But if he does, it's fine. I told him that it's even there's no advance notice needed. But yeah, I'm gonna figure it out. And the closer that we get to that time, I'm hoping the more I'll have a picture formed of what that's going to look like to have a meeting and still get to have Thanksgiving with my family, and potentially some of his friends, one or more of his friends. So yeah, I don't intend to there not be needing a meeting um, during the holidays because we know that's trigger time. A tigger's a wonderful thing, but not so much a trigger. Anyway, I don't mean to be cute about it, but it's either laugh or cry, which I've already done the crying. I don't want to cry anymore in this one, if y'all don't mind. I'm sure you don't. Um, but anyway, where was I? I was in my sobriety story. So, okay. I like that idea, seventh. I like that idea. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, you're volunteering, Cosmic and Steve and Christy, and but if they don't mind, then yeah, we could totally take shifts. That would be great because, we're usually through eating. You know, it takes about an hour for us to get through the whole eating, and visiting, and all that. Which we're just kind of sit down, eat, and boy, this is good, and then go watch TV. So instead of watching TV, I could catch the late shift or something. We'll figure it out. We will figure it out because, like I said, I intend for there to be a meeting. Oh, it's okay. Hey, Misha, just be sure you watch the replay because please, pretty please. And anyway, let's see. So I'm running around the halls of St. Vinny's, a Catholic Charities place. And, from that first night of wondering if I was dreaming about being in that nice, warm, safe bed from the streets where all you could smell was urine, I was, I kept wondering, there had to be somebody behind the scenes making this a reality, because this didn't just happen. This is not an accident. None of this is. And I kept getting sign after sign after sign that this was not just any old random accidental thing, that I was getting this chance to learn that I had a problem and to address that problem, because I was one of those that was not going to stop until I was 6 feet under. I was drinking myself right up on into that pit. I was going hard and steady at it. And so I'm walking around one day and I'm going, how is this happening? How am I here? How am I hearing these things that are sounding like me? And these are alcoholics saying these things that are sounding like me. How is this happening? It's driving me nuts, And I look up and here's this poster of Jesus. And it's one of those with him smiling real big. He's not looking off all aloof, He's looking straight at you with a warm, glowing face and a warm smile and open arms, and his heart and his heart just right out here for everyone, for all to see, the Catholic thing, And I just thought, oh, he did it. He did it. So from that moment on, I was just a little hippie chick Jesus freak, It is. It is. And whether real or imagined, I'm here. And when I was drinking, I kept hearing this thing nagging at me all the time. You're not going to live to see 30. You're not going to live to see 30. Well, guess what, bitches? I'm 28. I'm 30. And of course, 30 rolls around and I'm like, well, now what? Anyway, so yeah, I was a little hippie Jesus freak. And from then on, Jesus is all I wanted to talk about. I get my 30-day chip. I thought my sobriety date was February 7th, because I had smoked my last joint and hopped on a plane to go to San Diego. And so March 7th rolls around and I'm accepting my 30-day chip at my AA meeting, and I'm on this whole trip of Jesus is going to come back. And when he does, I want him to find me clean and sober, And about a week or two later, I'm like, oops, no, my sobriety date wasn't 30-day date was not March 7th, because on February 21st, I drank a box of wine, practically all by myself. But guess what? I didn't think about that, because when I was drinking that box, I was in a situation where I ended up being DR'd, if you know what I mean, SA'd, assaulted. And the more I drank, the sober I got. So I had to endure that stone cold sober, even though I drank nearly a whole box by myself. And because he wasn't drinking. I don't know what he was doing, but he wasn't drinking. He had the box there for me. Pretty sick, nonetheless. So I didn't tell anybody that that's why I had conveniently blacked out my sobriety date. But when the little girl was doing the young girl was doing the intake interview with me, I said something that got her attention, that had let her know that I was a possible SA victim, and that had just happened, and that's why she came down the stairs with that trolley pass, you know, and because you could look at me in my size 0 to size 2 frame, gaunt, barely half alive, and recognize that I'm not going to survive even one night out there in those streets. It's not going to happen. And I wouldn't have, you know. And that whole thing nagging at me that I wasn't supposed to live to see my 30th birthday. Well, maybe that was the plan. I don't know. I don't care. I'm here, bitches. I'm here. And I'm not calling y'all that. I'm calling the things nagging at me, telling me I'm not supposed to live to see 30. That's who I'm calling the bitches. Bitches. So, I had to do my whole 30-day chip thing again. And but I told the leader of the meeting where I was getting my chip. I told him, I messed up. My sobriety date wasn't February 7th. It's February 21st. And he's like, it's okay, and he was a fellow Christian, and he kind of let me know that he was. And he was just really, really sweet about it. And he let me do my 30-day chip over on the 21st, March 21st. And, so from then on, every meeting I go to, it's all Jesus this, Jesus that, Jesus the other. And they don't like that very much in AA, at least not in San Diego, California in 1994. And so I'd get called aside at the end of the meeting, all like, it's the God of your understanding. You're not supposed to say Jesus or anything like that. I'm like, but that is the God of my understanding. And I understand that he's the reason that I'm even standing here. So, I mean, you tell me, what am I supposed to do here? Right? Why was 30 the age? But I wasn't supposed to live to see it, but I did. And let's see. So I end up realizing over a 7-month period of this, 6 months of it, me trying to I'm all about Jesus. I'm going to church by this, pretty, as soon as I discovered that, I was a Jesus freak, I started wanting to go to church, and I was looking for my church home and blah, blah, blah. And yeah. Anyway, but so yeah, I start getting pretty hardcore into Christianity. I even think I even thought of myself as a hardcore Christian. I was going for the most hardcore church that I could find, because I was just all about it. I was as intense about it as I ever was about any drink or any drug I ever took, and so that's what it took for me to become sober. Eventually by 1999, all of that led me to a cult. And I was in a cult for 10 years, from 1999 until 2009, when I left California. And but it kept me sober, so I can't no cult is all bad. If it was, nobody would ever be in them. In my case, it helped me stay sober, and staying sober saved my life. And that was the only way that it was that my life was going to be saved, is for me not to drink. I knew that, you know. So that is that. I am 29 years and what is it? 6 months, November, December, January, February, March, February. So I'm 3 months away from my sobriety birthday. Almost 3 months away. November, December, January, February. Yeah, 3 months away. So that makes it 9 months. 29 years, 9 months, and however, or 8 months and 5. Anyway, somewhere in there. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 29 years and 9 months. Just under 9 months. And I'm going to open up the meeting and see if anybody would like to join me in the meeting room. Anybody needing a meeting, feel free to click on that link or just write a 2 in the chat and tell us what's on your mind. And we'll go from there, you guys. Yeah, that's so true. Oh, no, it always does that. The cults, the extremes, the zealots, the tickler of the ears, those are what have taken so much of the beauty away from this generation. It is heartbreaking, seventh, or awakened. Sorry. All right.
My sound's way off today, isn't it?
No, it sounds fine. You
Okay.
sound good.
Well, I'm sorry that I missed the first. I will definitely go back and listen to it, though.
Right on. I did not expect to go into my adoption story, but that was a fair part of it, a decent part of it. So yeah, it was not in my outline. Here's my outline. There's nothing in adoption in my outline.
Well, there's nothing about adoption that can be in anybody's outline. You know, it's who you are is who you are, and that has to be a pivotal part of it. You know, what our experiences are is what makes us. So I want to listen to it and get to know you a little bit even more. It's been a crazy day for me.
Well, I hope it was good crazy.
Well, productive. Yeah, definitely productive. I'm getting older and slower in everything I do. And so that's fun. Realizing
It
I'm
is
not all.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting how things change, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. But I can't stay on for too long today. I just wanted to show support and to
Thank you.
tell you that I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. I think we lost audio. Oh, there
No,
we
I'm
go.
muted. I had to cough and I didn't want y'all to have to hear it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, there's always more to us.
There absolutely is.
But that's the nuts and bolts of it, and how I got to be sitting here today, pretty
Well, I'm
much.
so glad that you are.
Thank you.
And I look forward to, I know this isn't everything, and so we're going to be able to get to know each other throughout.
Right
You know,
on.
every day we learn a little bit more. And that's
Right
the
on.
beauty of it. Hi, Christy. And hi, Cosmic.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, the whole fam's here.
Right? Hey.
I would love that, Zelda. I'm sorry if it was intense. I didn't know I was going to be getting into stuff that needed a trigger warning, and I'm sorry about that. But I hope you're okay.
Look, I feel like there's too much of life feels like a trigger warning. Like if we went through life going like need a trigger warning for everything in life is going to trigger us. especially those who've been through extreme trauma. So, you know, everything's a trigger.
Nisha opens her mouth and it should have the label right there.
Yeah.
Trigger, watch out, because she's going to make somebody mad.
Well, I feel like my trigger shouldn't be anyone else's problem. That's, you know.
It is confusing, Anique. It is. It's so confusing. And it's a lot to wade through. It's a lot to sort through. And my heart is with you in that 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I grew up going to Sunday school and in a, I think they call it Anglican or Church of England or whatever. And it was a completely different experience to the one I ended up in, which was Pentecostal evangelical, you know, like, so.
Mine was too. You and I have talked about that, but yeah, that's what my cult was.
Yeah, so
I was raised
but it's just,
Church of God.
What was it?
Pentecostal
Church of God.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
you know exactly what we're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. See, I wasn't raised in it though.
Because I wasn't either.
So it was like a choice. I ended up choosing to be in a cult.
You know, I grew up Methodist. My mom started taking me to the Methodist church when I was 9 years old, and I grew up
hippie as heck, like, you know, new age.
I love hippies.
Yeah, like I actually literally used to go around hugging trees. If there was a nice tree that was,
I've done that too. I love hugging trees. Are you kidding? I still love hugging trees. Shoot.
Hey, there's a tree. There's a picture, and I would love to go and see it in person of the two trees that are hugging each other. Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful thing! Oh my goodness, you know that is some old soul love right there.
Yeah, I just think you know, nature is amazing, and yeah.
Sorry,
Misha.
Go ahead, babe girl.
No, I was just saying nature is amazing, and like, you know, trees give us our oxygen, and so it's just like sometimes I think they need a little bit of love.
Yeah, they definitely do. Most definitely. Yeah. I mean, look at the state of many trees right now in our world. That to me is a testament of how we've treated our world.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many that are just it's sad.
There are some trees in New Zealand that have been there since before people were, because New Zealand's a pretty new island, I guess. But there are some trees that are there that are like 3,000 years old. I can't remember the name of the trees, but that's before the Maori got there. You know, like, so, and that's why they're special. And then there's all this foresting going on, and like these trees existed before people got there, and they just want to cut them down.
Right.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
Yeah. So it's just like, you know, so there's pine forest for a reason.
Breathe, and the trees help you breathe, but you're going to cut them down. That makes so much sense.
We got to watch out for climate change. But I'm pumped.
Yeah, well, see, we like right now, the last few days,
unashamedly cry out for the environment, because, you know, we're here by the grace of the ecosystem. Period.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, we don't need to save the planet. The planet's going to be here for at least another 4 billion years. We need to save ourselves.
To mess it up.
Yeah, it's humans we need to save, because the planet's going to be here regardless. It's us, and we need to make it livable for us and for our future generations. Like, actually, when you were telling your adoption story earlier, like, I was never meant to have kids. So when I had my first kid, I'm like, oh my God. But I didn't want to have kids, because I'm like, what sort of world am I bringing this kid into, considering the world I experienced? So even as a parent who's been in my kids' life majority of their lives, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. There's no such thing as a perfect happy outcome, you know, like, and anyone who says it is a liar. So, but we all do the best we can with everything we've got.
Yeah, granted, people do have fairly happy childhoods. I get to live a happy childhood vicariously through my husband, you know?
Yeah, well, exactly.
But it's just like normal childhood, and I love hearing about it. I soak it up when he talks about
Yes.
his childhood.
I love hearing about other people's joy, you know, like
Me
that. I
too.
feel like, yeah, like, I don't know, my ex, he used to get really mad when someone would win on lotto and he would lose. But I'm like, but somebody else won. That's changed their life,
Right.
you know? Can't you be happy for them? You know?
Maybe that's
But,
why you're not winning.
Yeah.
well, negative. Well, actually, my housemate's like, I'm going to enter the lotto. I'm like, I'm going to get struck by lightning because that's more likely. But
I'm like, I'm going to win one of these days, but you've got to buy a ticket to win, so it doesn't really help.
yeah, you got to
Gotta
be in
buy
it to win it. Yeah. So it's just like,
But there's something to be
but it's
said
just-
about the perfect childhoods too, because I was raised, and until just a few years ago, I really thought that I did have the perfect childhood.
Yeah.
I'm just now, dissecting a lot of stuff that was apparently hidden from me in my mind.
Yeah.
But having the perfect childhood, I knew nothing as far as the world.
Right.
And so it hindered me more than it did anything, because, it's like I had the perfect house, the perfect parents, the perfect, then you go out to the world and it's like, oh my gosh, this is what reality is.
Yeah.
I was completely clueless, and I was naive and ignorant to so much. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden crashing down, that's a big thing. And that's one of the things about my daughters is,
Yeah.
by God, they lived, they knew how to do stuff. They, from an early age.
Right
And I'm grateful for that. And they've taken that well.
Yeah.
it's weird, the dichotomy, like you can have a perfect childhood and it can like not set you up for a
Yeah.
reality, or you could have a traumatic childhood and then find out life is not that, like
Yeah. That's true. All of
like
it's
it's like
true.
yeah,
And-
so it's
and
like
it can be combinations of all of it, all at the same time.
Giant
but we
recipe.
need all the people, we need everyone who's had every sort of experience, because otherwise how are we going to learn?
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I sound very, very sick because I somehow I've caught a cold in the middle of spring.
In the middle of what?
It's spring here now.
I know.
Wow.
It's just like
If only I could
I'm
come
walking
visit.
around like, oh, it's beautiful. I'm in the group. I'll take some photos and show my backyard because I keep forgetting. And the cockatoos, like, how people have cockatoos as pets. Yeah, well, I have like 5 or 6 who just come visit my house every day.
Oh,
That's cool.
that's amazing.
That is really neat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they're native to Australia, and have you ever seen a budgie, budgerigar? I think you call them. They're like this
You're
big.
talking about a parakeet that looks like a miniature parrot.
Yeah, pretty much.
We call them parakeets
well-
here in the States.
Okay,
But
well, we
they're
call them
also
budgies.
we call them budgies here too.
Yeah, but I've actually seen, because they actually originated from Australia. They're an Australian native animal.
Wow.
And the actual large, but like, the real budgies, before they bred them down to be little, they're like this big. I'm like, oh my God, that's a giant budgie. And then I Googled it. I'm like, oh, they bred them down to be smaller, so they were more transportable and all that sort of stuff. So, but that's just kind of what they did to dogs. I mean, dogs started out as wolves, and now we've got chihuahuas.
Right. It makes you wonder about that, because like with the bulldogs and stuff, we had Pocket Pit, the most incredible baby, and he was gorgeous, but I mean, they bred for the way he looked. But he had so many problems with his skin and so many problems with his breathing. That is bred into as well.
It's getting dark outside, and I need to go get my chickens. I'll be right back. Y'all carry on.
Carry on my wayward. Yeah, that didn't go well.
That song's gonna be in my head the rest of the day now.
I know, right? I love the box in the head, though. You never know what's
well,
up on it.
Earworms. I call them earworms.
Earworms.
They'll stay in my head. Yeah, they'll stay in my head for the rest of the day. Oh God, because I've got my housemate's daughter here. I've had to hear some kids songs the last few days. That's basically torture, I swear. Like, if I have to hear like that baby shark do. Oh.
I don't know. I'm weird when I actually will play the kid songs, and there's nobody here but me and voice, her voice, and so it's like, if anybody walks in, they're like, "Okay, yeah, you are something." You were something.
Yeah. I just can't handle it. It's just like, because I was a stay-at-home mum, so like all day was kids TV.
Right.
You know, and we
You
had the
know,
Wiggles and High Five, and
The
you know,
Wiggles.
like what's that one that I can't even remember. Like, but Wake Up Jeff and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, I can't do this.
right. We had Teletubbies was big.
Chickens, everybody.
Oh, the chickies! Gosh, they grow so fast, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they do, especially when they eat all the time like I feed them. So I got
Yeah,
EBT
same. And
now. Like, it's funny because just as I stepped out to go get the chickens, the Amazon driver pulls up. So yeah, DBT for dummies.
Yay!
Oh wow!
That is awesome.
So we'll be diving into some of that.
Heck yes.
Well, I have to say, DBT changed my life. So I feel like sometimes I feel a little bit culty about it. Like, do DBT. It's like do Dianetics.
How's that go?
Do
Hi,
DBT.
Jordan. You're just so cute.
Oh, look at the baby chickies.
You know, it's such a neat thing watching those things hatch. We
Yes.
had the incubator, and oh my goodness, I would sit for hours and just watch little bitty.
Yeah,
pups
I'd be
off.
like, and sometimes they take a little while. So
yeah, and
it's
you're
like,
sitting there
you
rooting
see
for 'em.
that-
You're like, come on, you can do it. You can do it. I see you. Come on.
Yeah. I actually raised mice and chickens as a science experiment in grade 8. So
Oh wow.
yeah. So I was just like there going like every day, like writing down the results of everything. I was like, all right, this one didn't hatch, and all that sort of stuff. So it's just like, but the ones that didn't hatch, God, they hurt. Because I was like, what did I do wrong? But it's just like nature.
I've never seen every egg hatch in any nest that my chickens have brooded on.
I want a chicken now.
Many people.
I had
used to
my
have a
fill
duck.
on the farm whenever we went from the country club to the country, and Daddy decided he wanted to be like Noah's Ark and have 2 of everything. And yeah, we had peacocks, we had goats, bulls.
Oh, peacocks! It's so loud.
Oh my gosh! So they would the first years all we had them, and then they left. I guess they didn't want to be stuck in the farm thing, and you could still hear them. Like years later, you could hear somebody in the woods sound like a woman saying, "Help!" Creepy.
Yeah, maybe that's what they said. Help!
Yes.
Well, we have these birds called curlews here in Australia, and they sound like either a baby crying or a woman screaming, depending on the breed. And so there was one day, like, and they're like, they're pretty tall. They're like this big. So like when they're not bending down on their legs, so they're like not short little birds. But anyway, I heard this woman screaming. I walked out into the street. I'm like, oh, I need to help this person because that's my nature. I'm like, I'm someone who runs danger, it seems. So I'm like, I walked out. I'm like, where's this woman? And then there's this bird like screaming in the street, and I'm like, what's your problem? Like,
You were punked. You're looking for Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah, not him.
Right.
No, but it's amazing. It's like they sound like screaming women. I'm just thinking, how many times have police been called because this bird's been out there going like, ah.
For real.
Honestly, we have the weirdest animals here in Australia, but it's amazing. But also, I think it's like everyone's like, Australia's got the weirdest animals, but you guys have wolves and bears and coyotes and like what are those and bobcats?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm just, you know, and and we just have like spiders and snakes and
We do
koalas.
Yeah, we had a snake in our bathtub a couple of months back.
Well, I actually had the world's second most venomous snake living underneath my water tank for about 2 years. It's a eastern brown. They're quite venomous. But because the house was new, and they're territorial, I was like, it probably lived here before I did. So I'm not, I used to just be like, hey, Mr. Snaky, I'm coming to check on the water tank. I'm only going to be here for a little moment. Stomp, 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 stomp. No, not on the water tank. Run away. Because it's just like, I didn't want to harass the snake. Like, we are in their environment. They were here before we were. So,
Hey guys, I don't have any food in the house for these guys, which means I got to go out to the barn to get them some food.
I have not put an entry in at all, and like once this entire week, and so I'm dumb too. I wasn't here for very long, but I still have a meeting.
Do you guys feel
great.
like we've had a meeting, or do you want? If you want to carry on, I'm happy to leave it open. And y'all, but they're like looking at me like, "Hey, where's the goodies that we need?"
Feed me,
Yeah.
feed me, Seymour. Yeah, no, I've had a meeting. It's actually been great listening to you, Carol.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
I think
it.
that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn it on and listen.
I don't even know why I felt the need to share my sobriety story today, but I just kind of woke up feeling like it was time,
Well, you needed a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't know what's going to come out. So, what comes out is what's needed, I guess. So
yeah, seems to be that way. Seems to run that way. I think so.
Yeah. So
thank
you.
I don't know how to do the deep breathing like Christy likes to do, and I love when she does it. I'm just gonna end on the usual note of we like to have a moment of silence at the end of our meetings for the person still suffering in their addiction, for those who are struggling to recover because we know that's real, and those we've loved and lost. And then also we follow that with the serenity prayer, serenity meditation, serenity mantra, however you like to think of it. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Amen.
Amen. And huzzah.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
You go get some vitamin C and some zinc, young lady.
Yes. Vitamin C, zinc, and D3.
Yeah.
Soak up some of that sun you're getting.
I'm trying to I think I need to have some of my multivitamins or something, because I feel like I'm dying. But I did the COVID test twice yesterday. It's definitely not COVID. So,
One of the little guys has escaped because he's looking for something to eat. So I better go.
All right.
Go feed them.
All right.
Love
you guys
tomorrow.
so much for being here. For
you.
not leaving me alone to tell all this.
You're never alone.
Neither y'all. I appreciate you.
And all right. Love you.
You're awesome.
You are too.